One of my favorite guests is with us right now. His name is Alan Mendenhall. And Alan, wow, so many things are happening these days. We're going to talk a little bit of politics, but a little bit about Alan is he is the Associate Dean of Faulkner Law, Thomas Goode Jones School of Law, and the Executive Director of the Blackstone and Burke Center for Law and Liberty, among other things. He is also an accomplished writer. Welcome back to the show, Alan.
Well, thanks, Donna. I really appreciate it, as always, and glad to come on, especially with such distinguished company. It seems as though you're having all of the big candidates on these days.
Well, you guys are the best, and you've also helped my cause, so thank you so much for coming on the show. I grab you every time I can. Speaking of politics, man, what did you think about the debates last week?
Wow. Well, it's hard to say. There's so much that goes on after the debates. It's like a 24-hour period is what used to be a full month in politics.
True.
So a few days have gone by, and it's already as though the media has completely forgotten that those debates just took place. But frankly, I don't know that much happens in these debates that changes people's minds. I mean, it has become something of a spectacle, and it's all about getting in the quick one-liner or the sort of spotlight moment that can be replayed on YouTube, and the little clips can be replayed on the news. But I'm not sure a whole lot happens at these, or at least hasn't this time around, to change a lot of people's minds. I mean, you've got to think we've got 27 candidates. Actually, 3 have dropped out, so you're down to 24. 24 candidates, and they're all vying for that one big moment. But they're just, 12 with 12. There's so many of them. It's hard to stand out. Well, and I think that really helps Joe Biden, because he's really the guy that is the one to beat. I mean, in all the polls I'm seeing, it's like Biden has got a pretty big lead, followed by Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris. But that, Sanders and Biden are really the two vying for the top post. But it's Biden's race to lose at this point.
Mm-hmm. I just watched a few minutes of it. I don't know. It seemed as if they were all on attack. They always do that. They're all on attack. Did you ever watch this game show? It was called The Weakest Link. And I loved it the first few times I watched it, but then it seemed like the dumber people started picking on the brightest one to get rid of them. And it's almost what it's turned into. I'm not sure any of them are bright, but I'm saying the front runner, whoever they think the front runner may be.
Oh yeah, they all team up on the front runner. It's just their strategy to try to knock off the front runner, and it's a tactic that the Democratic Party itself, those who are not running, has got to be afraid of, because they don't want to see their top candidates getting knocked out because of the format of the debate. And one interesting thing about these debates is you'll notice that they become much more like a sporting event.
Yeah.
In that the announcer comes on, and it's kind of that, well, let's get ready to rumble kind of
Right.
voice, and then they play all these intros. It'll be like, and coming up, the former Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden. It's like you're going to be on this side of the ring, you've got so-and-so, and on this side of the ring, and it's like they're about to go into a Royal Rumble or something.
I know, it's just crazy.
It's really unusual. If you go back and look at the debates between, just for example, I mean, you could go look at any kind of, but fairly recent times, you go look at the Bush-Clinton debates, and when Ross Perot was in there. I bring this up since Ross Perot just recently passed away.
Yeah,
but if you go look at those debates, it looks like something that would be taking place in an old, an unrenovated room in the back of an auditorium in a university somewhere, with a big wooden podium, and it doesn't look, the fanfare just isn't there, but we hype these things so much. And, I really don't know whether it's good or bad. I mean, obviously it's aimed at increasing voter participation and making the elections more exciting and making people more civically engaged. But by the same token, there are a lot of people out there that really, you may not want to be civically, you may not want them out there voting just because, just because it looks like a sporting event on TV. If that's your reason for going out to the polls, you might not want that person voting.
Yeah, who are they trying to attract? I mean, I would think you're trying to attract the person, not necessarily the person who's, I'm gonna vote Democrat no matter what, I'm gonna vote Republican no matter what. You're trying to get that person who doesn't know. They're just like, I don't know, I wanna get more information, I want more meat in it. I want less hype and more, let's just get right down to it. What have you got to say about?
I completely agree. But I think that would bore most people. I mean, clearly what this comes down to is the television station's trying to get ratings, and I completely understand that. And if it works, that's great. But if it comes at the expense of good, constructive knowledge, then I'm not sure that is a positive development. I mean, you want the debate to be substantive. You want these people talking about the issues and not fighting about silly things.
Yeah, and that's what that's why I just quit watching. I thought, oh, forget it. I'll just wait until maybe they get down. Well, they get down to maybe 10 and then 5. Is it almost like Miss America? I mean.
Yeah, it's like, it's like not a talk show, a reality TV show where you're gonna get eliminated or whatever, one by one. So it's kind of interesting how the process goes.
Well, here's the chatter I'm hearing, okay, from people like me, real people out in the world, okay?
Yeah.
And this is what they're saying is like, it's almost like a game of what I just mentioned before. But I'm the only person who's come up with that. But it's like, well, I mean, what are they gonna do? I mean, okay, you're just bashing each other at this point. And of course, President Trump's always gonna be bashed in these things. But just say something. What are you gonna do? Turn it around. And then another thing I'm hearing from Democrats is it's not the party it used to be. I mean, it's really out there.
Especially Alabama Democrats. I mean, it is a party that has become radicalized. And if you look at what I mentioned earlier, you've got in the polls, you've got Bernie Sanders right up there close to Trump. But it's not only that it's just the Democratic Party that's changed, but I think that the demographics and the opinion shifts in the United States have changed a lot. I mean, if you look at some of the 2020 general election polls where they're showing who can and who cannot beat Trump, you'll see some of the polls, I think even Rasmussen and the Emerson polls will show that Bernie Sanders in some of those polls is possibly going to beat Trump in the spread. Now, what these polls don't take into account, they don't do things like the Electoral College. They don't take into account the Electoral College. So, they're not, they're not representative of the election results. In other words, so the Electoral College is made up of 538 electors, and each state gets a particular number of electors based on the Senate seats plus the number of seats it has in the House. So, our state, for example, has 9 electoral votes because we got 2 senators and 7 representatives. But when you break down that electoral college system, you realize that it's not just a straight up majority popular vote kind of thing. And so these polls don't account for those. So even if you see polls that are saying, oh, Sanders is up a little bit over Trump, or Biden's up a little bit over Trump, well, you can't take that as outcome determinative. Of course you can, it's just a poll, but you also can't take that as indicative of how an election might turn out. You're basically just taking that as, this is based on our sampling, an indicator of where the majority of people might be headed at this point.
Yeah, but that makes no sense where they might be headed. I mean, that's nuts. And then another thing, you just hit the nail right on the head just a minute ago. You said it's turning into who can beat Trump. Which one could beat? Which one can beat Trump? It just, the whole thing sounds out of shape. It's almost like a guy who's.
That's really what the Democrats are running on at this point. I mean, the left in the United States despises Donald Trump, and it's pretty obvious, and no one tries to really disguise it. But
well,
the
yeah.
question for the Democrats becomes which one of these candidates can beat Donald Trump, and you've got, because the Democratic Party is so split between this sort of progressive faction and then the more moderate establishment faction, it's hard to say what the right answer to that question is, because you've got some candidates just running far to the left while others are trying to hold the middle. But really, frankly, at this point, I don't know which side, like if you were a Democrat and you were trying to run, which way you would go, which way would be the right way. I don't even know.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think. I think had they put Joe Biden in 4 years ago going against Trump, there may have been a chance for them to win. But when they put Hillary Clinton in, I think that's when they really messed up.
Oh, I completely agree with you.
Had it been Joe Biden against Donald Trump, he probably won then. But I can't see him winning now because he seems to be losing it a little bit, like the shootings over the weekend. He said instead of the shooting being in El Paso, Texas, he had it somewhere else.
Yeah.
He got both locations wrong. And I do that all the time. I'm always, messing something like that up. But I'm not running for president of the United States against Donald Trump either. You've really got to be on it. I mean, you really need to know what you're saying. Because nowadays there's a thing called sound bites. And there's always somebody trying to trip you up. I mean, even their own people are trying to trip each other up to be the number one candidate.
You're right. I mean, it's been over 30 years since Biden first ran for president. I mean, he's run for, this is his third go round running for president. So it's he's always been known for kind of making some gaffes and stuff like that. But the Democrats like to write that off as, well, it's just Uncle Joe,
That's just Joe being Joe. I mean, they say that all the time, but you got to have somebody who's on their game.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I guess the Democrats have to hope that Donald Trump, is pretty unpredictable as well when it comes to.
He's pretty on it.
Like that.
He's not as stupid as they think he is. I mean, he's pretty on it. I mean, what about Kamala Harris? What do you think about her?
I think that's what you see that still driving Donald Trump's appeal is that he speaks for those who feel that they have no voice in the political arena, who feel that what they say would be considered politically incorrect, not publishable in, mainstream media outlets. And Donald Trump is the champion of these people, and he, speaks for them in a way that appeals to them. And I don't see any of the Democratic candidates achieving that type of connection with their voters. And they're not going to have a base the way Donald Trump has a base. To the extent that the Democratic Party can build a base for this election, a loyal base, it will be purely in opposition to President Trump. I mean, if the Democrats win, it won't be because everybody rallied around one candidate, thought one candidate was the perfect candidate. It will be because they rallied to fight Trump together.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. And then this is something else that, I have relatives who are Democrats, I have relatives who are Republicans, and I have some who are independents. I'm probably somewhere in between, but more for the Republican side. So, but this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, well, it sounds like all the Democrats care about is illegals. They don't care about us. And that's exactly because that's all they talked about during the debate.
Yeah, and you would think that wouldn't be in a winning election strategy, given that at least they're not supposed to vote, but illegal immigrants can't vote.
They will be, though. They will be.
That's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know if there's some kind of way that they've been gaming the system, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you wouldn't think that you would want to make that your primary issue.
I don't understand that.
Which you are staking your election, but it is it is one that continues to come up and one that you hear talked about quite a bit.
Well, let's get inside the head of Kamala Harris. Why does she insist on, why does she just keep on about it? Illegal, abortion. I mean, why? Why is it sticking in the, what do they think they're gonna gain from it, I guess is what I'm trying to find. I don't know. The whole thing is just not common sense.
Obviously, I can't get into Kamala Harris' head. There might be a little
No,
bit
you
of
never
confirmation.
did.
These politicians are generally surrounded by echo chambers. They don't spend a lot of time with people who do not think like they do.
Yeah, that's true.
And therefore, they do not realize what the vast majority of common people in, say, the United States South or the Midwest or in flyover states think. They just don't account for those people. And that's why you hear people like Hillary Clinton in the last election writing off all these common Americans, just normal everyday people.
Deplorables.
This kind of phobic, as if they're fearful of everything different, which is A, not the case, but B, incredibly patronizing. And it just shows that these people are walking in such small circles of elite people that they are incapable of understanding the mindset and motivations of ordinary working class people.
And I'm as ordinary as you can possibly get. And I'm going to tell you something. When she started talking about the deplorables, people, they started selling T-shirts like crazy. I'm a deplorable. People were so offended by that. She should not have
people
done that.
embrace the label. That's right.
It's like, hey, it helped them sell shirts.
That's a kind of a backfire. But to answer your question with Kamala Harris, I've seen this with a lot of Democratic candidates. I've seen this with sort of the TV pundits. Is what they try to do is make these little detention camps along the border. They try to conflate those, or they try to not conflate, but they try to conjure up associations with Nazi concentration camps and things like that, which are really hyperbolic associations and really dishonest associations, but they're meant to stir up people. They're meant to make people mad.
Play on their emotions. Get them all crazy.
Yeah. They're meant to inflame the passions, and that's not right. That's what you do if you can't win on your ideas.
Yeah.
You can't win on your ideas alone. You've got to resort to sensationalism and hysteria, and you've got to, stir the pot. And that's what a lot of these candidates are doing. And I'm not saying that they couldn't win a general election, but that's what they've got to do to make themselves stand out among a field of 24 presidential primary candidates, which, by the way, is the largest field of presidential candidates for any political party since, like, the 60s. We thought when we had 17 Republicans back in 2016 for the 2016 nomination that it was just wild, but now 24 down
I've
from
never
27.
seen
It's just amazing.
It's something else. Diamond and Silk were on the show last week, and you want to get them started. And this is what they say. They say, I'm tired of Democrats trying to put us back into slavery again. And that's what they say all the time. It's just, they say, that's what they're trying to do, and they're trying to get the message out. And they are so sincere about what they're saying. And, and they said the same thing you just did, how they play on your emotions.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's right.
And then you've got some guy out there that really doesn't care how it comes out, and he tweets all the time, and he's the one who draws in the crowds.
Yep. You're right.
Do you have any idea how many people actually listen to the debate? I haven't heard if it was any kind of record-breaking moment or...
No, I think they would have played that up.
Yeah, I think they would have too.
You would have heard record-breaking, stats of people tuning in, but I'm trying to think what was going on. There was something like the Braves game or something was going on. And I was like, I think I'd rather watch the Braves.
I heard sewing with Nancy was on at the same time on the EPT channel, and that people were more interested in watching Sewing with Nancy.
Yeah, or the Bachelorette or something.
Yeah. Oh, it was the Bachelorette. I think that's what it. Yeah, I think that was.
It may have been the Bachelorette. I think now that you're saying that, I think I kind of recall hearing something like that.
Yeah, but wow. But then again, President Trump is still bringing like thousands of people in. I think he could actually come to my hometown of Geraldine, Alabama, and bring millions of people in. I really think he can.
Yeah, no, I think there's no doubt if he held another rally of the kind that he did down in Mobile, that it would be packed full. And let me tell you one interesting thing. I was down at the state bar meeting earlier this month, which was down in Point Clear, and at the president's dinner, the last dinner, all of a sudden, up walks Jeff Sessions out of nowhere. I was shocked that he just was right there. You know, it wasn't like there was a big crowd or anything. And Senator Sessions, so we started talking. And he said he was not going to run for this Senate seat, by the way. I was not the person that asked him that question. The other guy I was standing there talking to asked the question. I wouldn't have been that direct. But he said he was not going to run for that Senate seat. But then he was talking about this conservative nationalism conference that was held in D.C. mid-July. And he mentioned in passing that he was still a big supporter of President Trump's agenda. He still stood behind the president. So I found that fascinating in light of all the media reports you hear about Donald Trump hating Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump. And, you know, of course, I'm sure that relationship is strained now. And I'm sure Donald Trump truly was upset that that Jeff Sessions recused himself from that investigation. But Jeff Sessions does not appear to share any or to feel any kind of animus toward the president, at least not from what I could gather during that conversation. And Senator Sessions is very much a gentleman as well and would not air private grievances had he felt them. But I was very interested in that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, certainly. But now, you know, think about this. Anything the media says, I'm media, but I'm not like everybody else. But just think about this. What is being said is always sensationalized. It's always, I want to be the one who gets them. I want to be, you know, that's what it's all about. I want to be the one to bring somebody down, you know.
Right, and that's what I like about your show, by the way, is that you're not out there to try to dupe the candidates or try to trick the candidates. And because of that, you're going to get more honest answers from the candidates. If you know, when you're just coming in there trying to trick people and dupe people, whatever, then people come in very guarded for an interview and they clam up and they give you their scripted responses. They give you the answers that they memorized ahead of time, and that or they just equivocate and give you just a bunch of general language that doesn't mean anything or doesn't, you know. But when people are relaxed, they're confident that they can be themselves and that this isn't a gotcha kind of thing. They'll open up and they'll be more honest, and you'll get kind of more exploratory responses. You'll get to know them as individuals even better, rather than kind of the canned responses that you get from politicians where they just seem like non-person.
That's right. They're reading it off and they lose their place. I mean, this way you can just be open, you know, just, you know, whatever you need to say it, you know, and that's what you want, and that's why people want to be on the show, because they get to be themselves.
That's right.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I almost had John Merrill singing here the other day. Did you know he used to sing for a Southern gospel group?
You know, I did not know that, but this brings up a whole new idea for me. What if we had a debate, but instead of a debate, we turned it into a singing contest?
There you go.
Songs too. So he did some country music. We could have a very interesting a singing contest between candidates.
Oh yeah, he went to the Southern Gospel Convention. This is back in the '80s or whatever. And he was singing for a group, and he jumps up there and starts singing with another group, and I don't know what all he's done. But
come to think of it, I bet if you put a picture of Randy Travis side by side with John Merrill, you
oh my
see
goodness,
a resemblance. I mean, I think Randy Travis has has some other kind of quirks about it and stuff, but they could be related.
Yeah, they probably could. Hey, next time I'll have him come with a cowboy hat and skinny jeans and, whatever shirt Travis used to wear.
Well, make sure you take pictures of that.
I don't think I can get him to do that. Anyway, he wouldn't sing. He said, no, I'm fast. I haven't practiced, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I just love finding out about the candidates. Okay, I want to ask you another question because, you do so much research and you're just a wonderful brain to pick. So let's just pretend President Trump is not the one running for president. And it's going to be, let's say it's going to be, what's his name, from Utah?
Mitt Romney?
Yeah, let's say it's Mitt Romney.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think the Democrats would have a flying chance if Mitt Romney were the one running on the Republican side?
Well, Mitt Romney doesn't exactly have a good track record. But, in Mitt Romney, I don't see Mitt Romney stirring up the base the way Donald Trump does. But by the same token, what are those people, are they going to go vote for, Elizabeth Warren or, something like that? I don't see them doing that. They're certainly not going to go vote for Kamala Harris. But I guess the question becomes, would they vote for Joe Biden? Because I think Joe Biden does have some appeal to working class voters in like the Northeast.
Yeah.
And possibly in the Midwest, not to the extent that Trump does, but Mitt Romney does not appeal to working class people.
Yeah,
he just reeks of elitism and has not been supportive of the president at all. And so, I think the Republicans would have a lot more trouble running with someone like Mitt Romney.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd never stay home and not vote, but I would have to make myself go to the polls if it were Mitt Romney. I would just have to make myself.
He's not a likable guy, really. So.
No, he kind of makes me think of the person who's had the plastic surgery that can't move their face anymore because they've had too many. There's no emotion. Have some emotion, brother. You've got to have some emotion. You've got to be out there and be with the regular folks.
Yeah, but he was not good at really identifying people. He tried to, that's one thing. Everyone talks about Ronald Reagan, but he really, truly was very good at connecting with people. And even people who were not Republicans could at least say, look, I don't like this guy's policy, but he's not a bad person. He's not a bad guy. Whereas now it seems as though our politics is so divided that everyone thinks the other side is pure, unmediated evil. It's hard to have a functional system when people are, believing those kinds of things about the other side.
Well, which guy is the richest? Is it Mitt Romney or President Trump? I think President Trump has more money, doesn't he?
Has more money? Oh, I don't know.
Than Mitt Romney.
Oh, that's a real good question.
But because really, to me, President Trump doesn't act like an elitist.
No, he doesn't, because he's not one. He's obviously wealthy, but being wealthy is not the same thing as being elitist, because elitist is somebody that tends to view society as something that only a select few people ought to run. It's like saying that only other elites should run the country, and that's a very different thing than just being wealthy. You could be wealthy and not be a populist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're spot on right there. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, okay.
It's almost like an attitude, and
it is. Yeah, it is. So, of the folks who are running on the Democrat side, who do you think is going to go up against President Trump in a debate? And how do you think it's going to wind up?
Oh, well,
it's up for grabs, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's another way of asking who do I think is going to win the primaries, and I guess if you had to ask me today and I had to be forced to put money on it, I would say Biden, but just to bear in mind kind of dates is when we're looking at these primary calendars, we are looking at like February as being the first caucuses for the Democrats. There's the Iowa caucus is February 3rd. And then, of course, you go Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and then like a bunch of states. And I don't remember all the order of how that all goes, but and which one's a primary, which one's a caucus. But I do know that that's coming up. That all starts in February 2020, and it will end in June. And the Democratic Convention is less than a year away. I mean, it's in Milwaukee next July, and so we've got less than a year before we start finding out. I mean, I would start guessing that by March or April of 2020, we'll really know who the primary candidate is going to be for the Democrats, and that may seem like a long time to a lot of people, but when you're like I work in a university, so my mind works on semesters, so I'm thinking August to December is a semester. Then you got January, and the next semester starts, and by then you'll be already in spring break. Like, so for me, when I carve out my year that way, it really seems as though those dates are coming up fast.
Yeah, the older I get, the more time flies too, so that's just the way it goes.
Yeah,
Just had someone send a text message to us just a second ago and wants to know what it's Rhonda. Rhonda wants to, let me pull it back up again. I know this sounds like a crazy question, but it's really not, based on the way people are acting these days. So she said, what are your thoughts about Hillary Clinton coming in, riding on the white horse, taking over, and being the nominee?
I don't think it's a possibility at all. I think at this point, that's just not possible. I'm sure she would love to, and I'm sure she is trying to figure out a way to not become irrelevant, but we'll see what that means. The other thing is, I don't think we fully know what her health issues are.
No,
I think she's got some health issues, and I don't think we really know the extent of those, or whether it's something that's going to prevent her from serving in a Democratic administration. Let's say let's say Joe Biden were to win the ticket, and he was looking to fill a presidential cabinet, would she be an option for him? And I guess it would really depend to see A, how sharp she is, and B, if she's at full health. And I'm not sure she is.
I don't know. I don't think so either. I'm still hung up on the time she passed out and they threw her in this van, and then she comes out of Chelsea's place looking, like 10 pounds lighter and younger.
I remember that.
Yeah, when that happened,
that was a day when I thought, oh, this is potentially a big turn in the election. It was like a Sunday or something when it happened.
Yeah. Oh, she comes out, and it's just looking younger. It had to be a double. And but all of us women were saying we want to go to Chelsea's place so we can come out 10 years younger and lay less.
Well, it's like, and that was the one thing about she was kind of tone deaf to me, but also with things like that, she didn't really know how to act. She wasn't a good act. You don't when you're acting, which all politicians do. They have to they have to be theatrical. They have to act. They have to put on a face. But you're supposed to do that without people noticing that that's what you're doing. It's supposed to look natural. And for her, it always looked very forced. It always looked like it was acting.
Yeah, it did. That time that she and Biden were hugging up, or he was hugging up her, and she was trying to get away from him.
No, I know.
He just kept holding on to her.
And that's what I'm in this Me Too era, I really, truly am surprised that Biden is the one at the top of the polls. And the only way I can explain it is that he's got a lot of money backing him because he's the most moderate and establishment of any of the candidates.
Yeah, he's pretty
and
touchy-feely
people
there.
are generally, people who are Democrats are generally comfortable that he will not take the Democratic Party in the direction of an Ocasio-Cortez or something.
Well, and then I'm thinking like my grandparents, who were the Democrats on my dad's side, they would have been more likely to vote for Joe Biden than the rest of them, because they would say, no, I think they're pushing the envelope way too much.
Yeah.
And, I still don't think they would vote Democrat now. I really think they would have voted Donald Trump.
Well, I think that's with a lot. I think that statement goes with a lot of people. And we'll see. Just I think it will be interesting, just in sort of a sociological way, what this next election will say about the United States of America as a country. Are we still definable as a nation? Do we have too many different cultures and mores and customs and traditions that break down by region? That it's, do voters in Alabama really care what people in Washington State want to do with their own state government, or do people in New Hampshire really have much in common with the voters in Hawaii? And are we just becoming too different in different regions of the country to really hold together? I don't know. I mean, this is kind of big picture speculation.
I think a lot of separation is going to come with this election. It's going to go one way or the other, and I think we're at a pivotal point right now.
And I think it's divided enough that you have both people on the left and people on the right that are both arguing that we need to control the apparatus of government so that we can centrally coerce people in disparate communities. We need to. It's not just that we need to govern and govern well. It's we need to get control of the government so that we can destroy the other side. And that is a frightening reason.
Yeah, because they're both extremists are doing that. And that's scary.
It is. And, it's one thing to have both sides arguing, look, we ought to win this election because we think we can govern better, and this is our platform, and we think that this one is a superior platform to the one you're offering. But there's so much hatred in the country today that I think that a lot of people vote because they want to destroy their political enemies. And that is a dangerous climate to be in.
That's totally insanity. Because, Bette Midler and Cher, I mean, they have said some remarks about President Trump that a few years ago the Secret Service would have been knocking on your door and you would have been hauled off. And who's that crazy comedian? I don't even know who she is. Kathy somebody. And she actually held up a pretend severed head of President Trump. You remember that one? Kathy something. She's supposed to be a comedian. She's not a bit funny.
I know the one, Griffin.
Yeah. And so she holds up a severed head of President Trump. I would be afraid to do that. I would be so afraid I would be arrested, put under the jail cell. I mean, do you think that's triggering some of the shootings that we're seeing?
Oh, I can only...
Because young people are seeing this.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I was wondering, because that Jeffrey Dahmer documentary came out early in the year, and I was thinking, well, where are all these psychopaths that, were eating people's faces and becoming serial killers all this? And then it struck me that maybe because they're copycats, maybe the new thing is that those people are becoming shooters. They're the ones, because there's no ideological consistency among these shooters. I mean, they even from the ones this weekend, they have radically different ideological views. The fact that they have views that are strongly ideological may itself say something about their proclivities, but I don't know. I can't explain why we have these mass shootings.
It's crazy.
It's deeply disturbing. It really is.
Well, and then like the one guy, the guy in Dayton, Ohio, Connor Betts, I believe is that you pronounce his name?
Right.
He used an assault-style rifle. I mean, this is not something you can go to Walmart and buy. I mean, where do you think he got the gun?
I don't know, but I'm sure that information is publicly available at this point. I remember hearing that one of them bought his gun online. I don't remember if it was El Paso or which one, but so I mean I guess that's a possibility.
But my point is, you got to be buying those things undercover, don't you? Or maybe at some crazy pawn shop or something.
But it's easy to say, well, clearly these people have mental health problems.
Yeah.
Clearly they do. But there's no easy mental health fix. I think we do have a mental health issue in the United States. I think we have problems with prescriptions, with overprescribing for mental health problems. But what the root causes of these mental health problems are sort of beyond my my area of expertise.
Yeah, but you know something?
I'd probably be a wealthy man if I could figure it out.
Yeah, here's part of it that I think, and this is just from having a kid in school, because my son, of course, now he's 40 years old, but I remember teachers would send notes home, even at that age, in the 80s and the 90s. They would send notes home if a kid were too hyper, and they need to be on Ritalin. Well, you know, parents thought that was the thing to do, put the kids on Ritalin, you know, to calm them down. But back in my day, I would have probably been put on Ritalin because I was an active kid. And, you know, of course, my parents believed in just whooping your hiney. And, you know, you behaved in class, so, you know, you didn't want to face your parents, you know, being in trouble at school when I was growing up. But I remember some kids, and I remember thinking, there's some kids that my son went to school with, and I thought, there's nothing wrong with these kids. They just need a good hiney whipping. I mean, you know, and I don't think they need to be put on Ritalin.
Well, there's clearly, you know, the rod of discipline mentality is definitely left this country, and there's something to be said for, you know, stern discipline, but stern discipline is also loving. I mean, you don't want people to be abusive, or you don't want children not to learn from what they're doing wrong, but you also want children to be disciplined. I mean, that's what discipline is. Discipline is discipline.
I think you just have to be stern with them.
To correct your behavior, and it's done out of love, not you know, I mean, of course, it's hard for parents, if you're a good parent, it's hard to discipline your child. You know, no one wants to, no one likes giving a spanking, but, you know, you do it because you love your child, and you want your child to turn out better and to learn lessons.
Well, my sister, I think, was one of them who said it one time. She said, you must beat him up every day, talking about my son. And I said, no, I doubt that he in his entire lifetime has had 5 spankings. It's just that when I said something, I meant it. And I think that's what kids, they want discipline. They want you to say it straight. And I just really believe that. I bet I didn't spank him 5 times his entire lifetime. I didn't have to.
Yeah, that's important when the child is able to internalize discipline himself or herself because they don't want to disappoint the parents.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate show of good parenting, is that the child is just can't stand the idea of disappointing parents and just won't act up because you don't want to let them down. You know, you're happy that they take pride in your actions.
Well, see, and again, we do extremes on both ends. I think there are people that just carry it to the just total extreme, beating on their kids and stuff like that. Now that's unnecessary. But then if you never correct them, that's unnecessary.
Yeah, no, you're right.
There's got to be a happy, like you just said earlier, there's got to be a loving way to do it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Kids have to feel like they're loved.
The thing is, you realize that you're disciplining out of love, not, you know, which is important, and it's always important to remember that too, because it's easy to lose your temper when you're a parent, and you don't want to discipline out of just sheer anger because you don't want to teach the child that rash behavior or anger is okay. You want to teach the child that discipline is a form of love, and so that they discipline their children.
Well, and parents these days, and it's not their fault. They're working so hard to make ends meet. You know, the economy's better and what have you, and I think people are so afraid we're going to get into another bad economy that their parents now they're working 2 or 3 jobs and they're tired when they come in.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's a hard work. Even though consumer confidence is up, even though the economy is improving, a lot of people, I don't think, feel that in their day-to-day lives. It's just, they don't know, because part of it is that, you know, prices are high, and taxes are high, and, you know, it's just hard for people to dig themselves out. A lot of people just don't feel prosperous. Now, it's important also to keep things into context. That, you know, as far as the history of the world goes, we probably live in the greatest time there's ever been. I mean, all of us are going home and we're confident that we have plumbing, we have doctors, you know, we have the greatest medicine we've ever had in the history of the world. We've all got access to cell phones and internet and email. I mean, it really is an amazing time to be alive as a human being, and it is very easy to take that for granted and to just focus on the negatives. And I am just as bad as everybody else about doing that. But it is important, I think, to step back every now and then and look at how amazing it is. I mean, I'll lean back in my chair right now and look at what I'm looking at in my room. I've got a laptop. I've got a split screen computer. I'm talking to you on one conference phone, and I got my iPhone sitting on my desk. I've got all these stacks of books that, you know, there was a time when it was difficult to print books, and books were wildly expensive. I look out my window and I'm seeing all these cars, and, you know, even people who don't make much money generally find a means of transportation. I mean, it really is an amazing world we live in, and, you know, as bad as things are, we need not to take what we have for granted.
Well, maybe, like my grandparents lived through the Depression, and they never really got out of that. They were constantly saving money. They would hardly ever spend on it. So maybe we're carrying a little bit of that with us because we had such a bad economy a few years ago. You know,
Well,
so
I think there's that, and I think when we went through the boom cycle, during the kind of internet boom, people were pretty extravagant, and people bought things they couldn't afford. People were buying mansions and buying fancy cars, and then when the bust hit, they were left with debt that they couldn't pay. So I think that we got a little too lavish, and we paid the consequences. So I agree with you. We are doing exactly as you say. People are saving up and trying to prepare for the next bust, but you know, they're also, I see all these studies and reports, and I don't know, I don't know how to evaluate all these things, but I do see things that still suggest that people buy homes that are outside of their means, and that if they were to lose their job this month, they wouldn't be able to make their mortgage payment next month, and that there are, you know, X number of Americans that fit that category, and so, you know, I don't know how to measure that or quantify that, or even how to assess the accuracy of those kinds of reports. But, you know, I do think we are in a situation where by most accounts and by most measures, the economy is improving. But in my sort of not empirical, but just experiential sense, is that, or my anecdotal sense is that people just don't feel that yet. They don't feel the prosperity. They don't feel that they're part of a booming economy. And
on the other hand, a report was just done where people are saving more this month than they have in years.
And that's great.
Yeah, that's an awesome report. So I think if President Trump gets in again, I think people will have more confidence, because, I mean, I'm just telling you, you know, people are following on that bandwagon. We're going to have to close it for the day, but before we close, tell the folks how they can find your work.
Well, the easiest way is my website is www.alanmendenhall.com. That's ALLENMENDENHALL.com. And my books, my writings, all kinds of stuff are available at that site.
Awesome. Thank you, Alan, for being on the show.
Thank you, Donna, as always.
You take care. Bye-bye.